this computer.
Oh,
All
hold on, let me hit the
right.
button. Whoa. Okay. All right.
Welcome, everybody, to Reality After Darkness once again. And we have our special guest, Eric Taylor, here from Big E Astrology.
Welcome, welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's a pleasure to be on with the two of you.
Thank you for joining. Yes, this is exciting. We got a lot for you guys tonight. Eric, I've known you for a little bit, and you've helped me with my birth chart and life coaching and all that good stuff. And I'm glad that I was able to get you on with the NDE. That's just an amazing story, and I'm looking forward, to share it with everybody.
Well, definitely. And it was a pleasure doing your birth chart. And you're just, I just think the world of you. And maybe one day I'll do Mo Curl's birth chart as well.
Oh, wow, that would be interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I go deep. Emily will tell you, I go
Oh,
deep.
we were actually gonna ask that later on, so we'll get in.
Okay, we'll talk about it. So, I mean, oh gosh, like where do I begin when you talk about a near-death experience? I didn't even know what that was. Like I've been a professional astrologer and, really doing my craft since about 2017 now, and know a lot about, all things spiritual and esoteric and occult knowledge. But I just, I didn't know, I've heard of the term, but I didn't know about the NDE world. It's like huge, right? It's its own like space in the galactic or something. I'm a native New Yorker. I got married and I'm a father of four sons. We moved to Arizona in 2011, left New York City. Now, I didn't know this, but Arizona has got this wonderful fungus called valley fever that
Mm.
is like up under the soil. And it was so innocent. Like I'm going to open up the front door for the cable guy, and it wasn't him, but a gust of wind, like just like engulfed me like Ghostbusters, literally like a movie scene. And I'm
Oh,
like coughing. I come inside. I said to my wife, I said, baby, I think I'm going to be sick. I went on such a journey, you guys, excuse me, that really went through my own internal Vietnam. Valley fever usually shows up in your lungs. It's
mhm.
in like Fresno, some parts of Washington, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. And it's just like a fungus and it can create like autoimmune issues. So
Mm.
because it didn't go in my lungs, Western medicine never could detect it, I guess. So it went to my head and my neck, and I was producing mucus every day as if I had the flu.
Mm.
No bueno. Like it was terrible. So give you insight, I'm a little taller than average. I'm 5'11". When I got married, it's 5'11", like 187.
Mhm.
After I had broken my ankle in New York and had another surgery in Arizona, 2011, two surgeries. And I, got to, let's say like 192. At my sickest with the valley fever from 2013, um, really maxing out around 2015. I still had no help. I'm going to an acupuncturist that recommended me to a naturopathic doctor where I first got help, 2015 going into 2016. So already 2 years in, I'm in crazy body sores, aches. I need ice and heat just to get out of bed. I couldn't work a 9 to 5. I was doing sports radio at the time, like my other love, right? I tell people I'm not just some spiritual woohoo guy. Like I'm an MC, I'm into sports. Like I'm a real dude. I'll knock you out. Like don't sleep, right? But I've evolved, right? But anyway, so no lie, I maxed out at 5'11", 240 pounds. When I went there, I'm doing garlic IVs, $187 a pop. I'm doing leeches, God's first medicine. I shaved off all my hair, leeches like going down my whole cranium, down the back of my neck. And what the leeches do, they have this homeopathic medicine in them called the hiragine that like they dig like a little tunnel through your skin and they just like drink, 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 and then they fall off and die. Imagine that's their life cycle, right? But what it does is it gets you to secrete out blood and like all the mucus and pus and whatever is in you. So it's really amazing, right? And it's like literally God's first medicine. So I'm doing that $40 a leech. I mean, so I'm losing my savings. I'm taking all the pills and medicine, but there they did detect using the electrodermal screening. Maybe you've heard of it. Like it's popular in America now, right? But it was more popular in England and Germany and I think Cuba. You know, they're kind of more advanced than we are in terms of the medicine stuff on the medical side. So we, find that out. So then I finally get diflucanazole. That's the pills to help you. So basically, I go through all this stuff. I learned the Valley in Arizona through going to doctor's appointments. I even wound up getting a spinal tap. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that, people.
No.
That is maybe kin to, I can't, listen, I respect you women, right? Giving birth is no joke. But for a man, I can't think of anything worse than a spinal tap, right? They go through like right in the spine to get fluid from the brain. And I went through all that for the results to come back negative, but I had to get MRIs, CAT scans of the brain. I was going through brain fog, body aches and pains throughout the whole body. And I didn't realize the valley fever in us melanated folks, it travels. So my arches collapsed. I had 4 surgeries, 2 on each foot, my left wrist, carpal tunnel. I mean, Emily, I've shared some of this with you, but I was going through it. I mean, it was torturous. And at the time when I got sick, my wife was pregnant with the twins. I have 4 boys and 10-year-old twins, about to be 11, but they were, in the womb, they were in the stomach, and I'm getting sicker and sicker. Fast forward, all this stuff, I get better, getting through the pain. But through this, it got me back into the astrology, looking for, you know, off the grid medical stuff. And it got me into medical astrology and then researching and studying and reading. And then I took an astrology course and then boom, it was so like an intuitive hit. The rest was history. COVID comes. I'm taking care of my mother. I took care of my mother over 20 years, right? I'm a Capricorn moon. They tend to do that. My wife, once we got married, she became a huge part of that and really extended my mother's life. She was amazing. Best daughter-in-law she could just ever imagine. But my mother, survivor of breast and brain cancer, a retired 5th grade teacher in Harlem, she was a Harlem girl, she started to get dementia. And so when COVID came, we were like, 10 feet apart, masked up, like, it was just like real lockdown. And so, that's 2020. We get into 2021, lockdown. We wind up doing something really innocent that turned out to be just whatever. The twins, it was their birthday. They wanted to have a little party. Somebody at their party brought COVID. Boom. It was the Delta. Now, meanwhile, when they said it wasn't here in early 2020, it was here and we got it. And we knew it was the COVID because of how it affected my mother. And they had asked us, like, because she actually got put on a vent for like 2 days and then got off it like real quick. And they said, does your mother have heart issues? And we are like, no. But like, I remember for me, my life, I've had I taught for 10 years, disabled kid in the Bronx. So I've had like, walking pneumonia, the flu, bronchitis. So this was like a good 21, 22 days where I was like bodied. I was really sick, felt yucky, crappy. I was like, this is not just whatever. So we come to realize afterwards that it was early COVID. 2021, late August, COVID hits us. My mom goes into the hospital August 27th. I went in August 29th. So when your oxygen hits 88%, you're supposed to go to the ER, right? It's normally between 98, 99, 100, right? Depending, we all breathe, sinuses, whatever, right? So 88, you should be, going. So that's what happened to my mom. We called, but on the meter, we had one of those meters. My wife's oxygen was 94, 93, 92. It was affecting the adults worse than the kids. The kids were okay, but they were just feeling a little yucky, but they were fine, right? My wife, she got it first. She was really struggling. For me, I remember at the time I did like a little video over YouTube to the audience. I was like, hey, you guys, pray for me. I'm not feeling too good. I'll be announcing my Virgo birth chart sale soon. It's Virgo season, but I'm just feeling a little out of it. I got COVID, but I'm going to be okay. Just pray for me, right? August 29th comes. My oxygen, I remember that morning, it may have been at like 58, 59.
Wow.
There's no reason for me to be standing talking. I said to my wife, I feel terrible. Let's call. EMS comes, they won't come in the home. It's like, gas mask, like toxic, right? So I have to go outside. They checked my oxygen, no lie, 56%. Mr. Taylor, how are you standing? And in my head, I was like, I'm thinking Ben Stiller. I don't know, strong like bull. Like, I'm just like, yo, I mean, I'm just that dude. I don't know. I'm just being me, right?
Right.
And they rushed me off to the hospital. Well, before they rushed me off, this is really deep. Mind you, it's August 29th. My birthday is, in September. So August 29th, I was 50, about to turn 51. My boys are crying in the front yard. I said, no, boys, daddy's going to be okay. Don't cry. My wife's like, oh my God, baby, you're going to be okay. And I said, I love you guys. Daddy's going to be okay. And I said, don't worry. I'll see you in October.
Hmm.
My wife was like, what? No. And then the doors are closing. And I don't know why I said that, you guys. I just said it. I guess my soul knew, right? I
Mhm.
get to the hospital. My mom's like couple floor, like couple, beds down. They wheel me to her so I can see her. I give her a kiss. She doesn't even really. She's got just a little bit of oxygen. She wasn't on a vent. She was actually doing really, really good. She
Mhm.
kind of pissed at this point. She was with the dementia, nonverbal. She kind
Mm.
of whispers, and so I'm letting her. I'm kissing her hand. I'm like, "Ma, we're gonna be okay." Da da da, talking to her, and I'm just trying to let the doctors know like this is what she needs. Make sure the tube feed, yeah, just speaking Cheryl because Cheryl can't speak, right? So I'm letting them know, and then after that, each day I would just see her on the iPad in the hospital. I was getting sicker and sicker.
Mm.
I told them immediately about the valley fever because when you have valley fever, you guys, you can't have steroids.
Mhm.
The steroids activates the valley fever, which was laying dormant in me. I was really doing good during the pandemic. It was the first time I ever did yoga. We were doing family yoga. I'm like working out every day. It was like intuitively I was training for war or something, and I really was, but I didn't know that, right?
Mhm.
And it's so deep because I told them about the valley fever that I can't have steroids. I got verbally assaulted in the ER room. This doctor, this woman doctor in the ER, foaming at the mouth, screaming and yelling at me because I'm not trying to get controversial, but I wasn't vaccinated.
Mhm.
My choice, my health, right? I was, I have, I was born with an eye disease, retinitis pigmentosa, makes me legally blind in my right eye. I had the valley fever, so I was very, I talked to doctors. They didn't have any concrete answers for me. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
go with my own intuition, and I'm like, nah, no thanks, right? So she's screaming. I mean, it was so unprofessional, and I'm looking at her like she was a crazed dog. I'm looking at her like, can are you gonna help me? Can you just help me? I'm sick, right? Like she's like, I bet you're gonna tell your friend. I was like, most of my friends got the vaccine. Like, who? You don't even know who I am. You're like assuming all this stuff about me, and you don't know who I am,
Wow.
right? She's just judging a black guy with locks, whatever, right? So anyway, they were more concerned about their protocols. They gave me the steroids. They
Mhm.
gave me remdesivir. They denied me of the monoclonal antibodies. There was no reason. My neighbor I know got it. He was 87, a 50-year-old man with four kids and a wife. Like I should have got it, but I got denied. I'm getting sicker and sicker. So my come to find out later on, but basically I was down to like 10% function of my lung. But they did not
10%.
offer, I know, right? They did not offer to induce a coma. Like when I awakened, I found out my roommate, when I had like one or two, but my main roommate that became like my brother, right? He, Yugoslavian gentleman from New Jersey, sweetheart of a guy. They induced coma for him. I fell into a coma September 6th. Now, this will show you how, maybe a little how crazy I am, and my wife was kind of pissed at me. September 5th and 6th, I had fantasy football drafts, so I did it from the hospital.
Eric.
And then I was so delusional. I actually had my wife bring my computer to the hospital because I felt guilty. I just got a client had booked, and I thought I was going to be able to do their chart reading in the hospital.
Oh
This is
my
how out of it I was. I
Wow.
could barely lift my hands. I couldn't type. I was like fumbling on the computer. It was the biggest mistake ever because when they did the x-rays and whatever stuff they were doing in the hospital room, it zapped my computer and I wound up losing so much screenplays, monologues, ideas for book. I mean, so much work, some of my life's work.
wow.
And I was heartbroken. You know what I mean? I've written a play that got produced. I've done a movie that's gotten produced, like all this stuff, right? I'm a creator, right? So September 6th. So there's this thing, and I have to do research on it. I don't know. There was this mask that they were putting on me that literally went like all over the head and the front and back. And they kept telling me to put it on, Mr. Taylor, this is your only way to get out of here and survive and yada. I remember the first night I tried it, I did okay with it. The second time I tried it, I got like claustrophobic. I was like, take this off. Like I could only take like 2 minutes. Like it was like really cumbersome. I don't know the name of it, and I don't even know what it was.
Sounds
Huh?
crazy. Did it even give you space to breathe? Like, or was it that?
No, it was like you're breathing, I think, through it, but it was something to help with oxygen, and
Okay, okay.
I don't
That's
know, but it was, I mean, Mocha, it was scary, to be honest. Like it was not a happy thing. So anyway, they asked me on the 6th, after I did the draft, I got on the phone with my wife and I said, babe, they want me to do this thing again. I'm gonna do it. I'm really tired. I just said, I love you. Good night. It was like probably 8:39, maybe, yeah, after 9. I was exhausted. And it's the last thing I remember. She gets a call, 11 o'clock at night. Mrs. Taylor, your husband's organs are failing. They're like doctors panting. Death is imminent. We'll call you back in an hour. Click. This wasn't the heart of the pandemic. They gave the woman 48 seconds. Like, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, I couldn't even imagine getting that phone call. Like, if the roles were reversed, I would have been like, and she couldn't come see me.
That's wild.
So she wasn't able to come see me till September 20th. She actually on I think it was the 4th or the 5th, they allowed her to see my mom because of my mom being nonverbal. And so she snuck down to see me. They had like the riot. They were about to arrest her. They were threatening, like, you got to get out of here. Like, it was so crazy. Like, they escorted her out of the hospital. It was like, oh, she's like, I just want to check on my husband.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was insane, right? She's masked up the whole nine, but I mean, it was that crazy. So, and needless to say, for me, never saw a moment of darkness. Life just continued. I went to different dimensions. It's like every experience, it was like mini movies, mini vignettes. You know what I mean? Like I'm literally like most of the situations were like me in the hospital, but I went to London, England. I was in California. I was going to go on a plane going to Mars. I definitely went through like spiritual warfare, battling Satan, Dark Night of the Soul.
Wow.
It was terrible because this was hard. My wife and I, we just celebrated 16 years last month of marriage. And in a coma land, she was cheating on me. She had two boyfriends. One was younger, so I was hot. And then I was hot. And then wait, she had two boyfriends, and then she was also trying to kill me.
Wow.
And what's so funny in real life, right, on her end, she's, in the hospital doing two-a-days because it was right by the house. The kids are doing homeschooling, so she'd come in the morning and then, go back, check on them with school, help them with lunch, and then come back in the evening. And, I was there from August 29th I got transferred to another hospital down in Phoenix, St. Joseph's, October 10th. So through this experience, right, most everything was negative. I did have a few positive experiences that I got to share that were actually kind of funny. So I told you it was like around my birthday. So I fell into a coma the 6th, right? So my birthday's on the 10th. So my wife and one of my buddies, they had gotten audio recordings from friends, family, like everybody. And they put it all together. And my wife, through the phone, they would, on FaceTime, played it for me. And on my birthday. Now, mind you, she's doing that, and there's like my kids singing and they could visually see me. For me in coma, one of the best memories, I had a black tie birthday party. I mean, it was like I walked into this ballroom, Emily, like it was like, I mean, people from childhood, high school, both colleges, people from when I was a professional actor, teach every walk of life. I'm seeing people I hadn't seen like 20, 30 years, like everybody. I was like, yo, I'm so there, like, happy birthday. I walked in, I was like, yo, this is dope. The music. And it was so crazy because I guess it was when on the other side, right, they were wishing, playing the happy birthday message.
Wow. That's
I
amazing.
was like loving it. Then my wife and kids told me they were playing some music for me one time. They were playing, of course, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, KRS One, Rakim, Boogie Down Productions. It just came out before then. They played Nas's new album where he had the joint Nobody with Lauryn Hill. And I love both of them, right? So that song is like super dope. My wife said that I started like dancing. And then when they played that song, I started going crazy. Now I'm totally out cold in coma. I'm literally so this shows you how much of a hip hop head I really am, right? In coma, she's playing the music through the cell phone, and I started like literally like bopping and dancing. They said like dad, like they were like, Dad, you were going in, like you were like, and but then like some bells or alarms started going off. The doctor's like, no, no, stop, 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 and they're like, what? Did I hurt him? And they were like, oh my God, ma'am, no, just stop. He's okay, but his blood pressure is like off the scales. But
Yes.
now we know he's in there. He's
Yeah.
hearing this. He's, there's something going on, right? And but then after that, my wife said there would be days, weeks in a row, I was just a limp noodle, nothing. She said it was really challenging, right, for them to move me and for her to watch it because they wouldn't let her help. But remember, this wasn't until the 20th when she got there. But she said like one time, like they kind of they wrap you in the sheets and like that my shoulder, because when I woke up, my shoulder, it was like I felt like they broke me. My shoulder was like twisted forward, like it was like all off because they're so worried about your backside,
Right.
when you're in coma, right? They don't want any sores, that can get into a whole bunch of stuff,
Right.
regular hospital MO.
Mm-hmm.
But I I really know and understand now. My soul selected to do this. I agreed to it. I had to go through this, that it was an upgrade and an up leveling for me.
Mhm.
It was definitely spiritual warfare. I mean, I literally was seeing demons and saying, like, even my wife's boyfriend was almost like this weird, like, spiritual tour guide. He was trying to steal my wallet, my ID. There was one time I was trapped in like a dungeon, like in Phoenix, and this beautiful Latina sister was going through my wallet and taking my card. And then I was like, I wasn't tied down, but I'm in the back in the restaurant in this basement, and there was like these fire torches and almost like tiki torches, and it was like real dark, and it was like, I don't know if it was demons, but there was energy like on the walls, and I mean like dark, and I just remember I'm sitting there and there was a light underneath me in the chair, and I just remember like I was just like, I got to get out of here. Like it was, and I'm going through all these different spiritual tests and everything, but I just kept saying, God, Jesus, mom, my wife's name, my four boys. God, Jesus, mom, my wife, my boys. And I kept repeating and repeating it. And I got out of there. But what's really wild, I I thought my wife worked at the hospital because she was there so much, and I come to realize that my soul was out of my body remote viewing me, because later on when I awakened, there were people that I saw in my hospital room. So this is like really wild, right? When I was in this is all still in coma, right? Because I know it can get kind of confusing, but like, so I'm in coma, but in coma, I'm in the hospital, and there was 30 to 40 people in my hospital room, doctors, nurses, the respiratory doctors, and they took my oxygen away, and they were watching me die,
Wow.
and I was like doing all this breath stuff to catch my breath, and I was getting my voice, and I said, and I was like, if you kill me and let me die, my family will come after you. And then I said to them, I said, you have no idea who I am. I am a spiritual giant, and I will come after you. And I'm like pointing I'm literally, imagine like me in a hospital bed with 30, 40 people in the room. And I'm like pointing at them. And I think I may have mentioned a couple of names.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, this is at the second hospital. I never knew any of these folks, never seen them in my life. But I'm going, but this is what's so crazy. Once I awakened, I recognized two people. The respiratory nurse, she was working with my neighbor in the next bed over. She wasn't working with me. they rotate though, but like, so one time she would come in the room and she may like, clean me up a little, they come and clean out your trach and all that stuff. But she wasn't really working with me. She was working with him. But I'm looking at her like, I'm like, that going like, when you know somebody and you're like, I've seen you before, right? And I'm bugging in my head. I'm like, wait, I'm trying to place it. But then I started to remember and I got scared because you guys, I thought, in coma, they're literally trying to kill me. My wife, the doctors, the nurses. So I thought that now that I'm awakened, that like they're gonna try to like they're not gonna let me get out of here alive.
Mm.
So there was that level of paranoia, but you can imagine it was justified. Like even with my wife. So this will mess your head up. Do you know? So not only was she cheating on me, and then it was weird. It's almost like, and then the ex boyfriend. Well, one of them was like her ex-husband who was actually physically abusive. And so in coma, like the boyfriend and the ex-husband, she was sleeping with both of them and they were both hitting her. So like, my mind was playing tricks on me. I'm like listening to the Ghetto Boy, brum, 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 you know what I mean? Like it was really like torturous. And I guess it was really honestly me facing these different fears. My wife and I have a beautiful marriage and both loyal and we just have a great family. And, sometimes the kids can make it a little crazy, but that's okay, right? But you know what I mean? So like there was no reason for me to even be thinking about this stuff, but it was almost like, honestly, I was going through spiritual tests because before I awakened, she was like almost showing me a life review. And I want to get back to the technology in a minute because I was seeing things in the future. So, but she was literally, this is right before I awakened, she's showing me on the laptop our life together. And then she's showing me her future life with her new boyfriend. I'm like, BI, you better get out of here. So when I first awakened, she's like, oh my God, baby. And I'm like, don't baby me. You're just trying to kill me and cheating on me. Can you imagine? Like, oh my God, like you guys, first of all, I was crushed and heartbroken because like the last few things she said to me, she was going to take my older son who was at home. I got three boys at home. One moved out. He's, older, but she was going to take him and move to Atlanta because he's an actor and pursue acting down there. And then I was going to be with the twins and like I was in this wheelchair and she was going to come and visit me like every other weekend until I got better. But she was going to leave me and leave me with the twins in the wheelchair. Like, this is like what I'm thinking about. Um, the technology. So the apps were floating outside of the computer. This was me seeing glimpses of the future. So, you know how like we have things now, but you know where we're going, right? With Elon Musk and all this foolishness. And I tell everybody, don't get no chips in your brain or your hands, you guys. But, technologies, things will get better for us. But what I was seeing was your computer, the apps were not on the screen. They were literally like floating and there was no more mouse. You would just tap like a fourth dimension and you would tap and move things like with your finger and sometimes with your mind or your third eye or your hands or your thoughts or just talking it. And so like I was seeing that, like I said, I was like on this plane going to Mars, but we didn't get there, but it was like this whole experience. And then what was really wild is that I was going through all these like spiritual tests. And I think that was really deep because one of them I remember, right? Now, look, I love everybody, but I am a straight heterosexual man and I don't judge nobody. I'm open. I don't care about, I'm a professional actor. I got friends that are everything. But in the test, they wanted me to shave off one side of my locks. Oh, one other positive thing, I was like doing sports on ESPN with like Stephen A. Smith. I'm a big sports head, so like I had a job on ESPN. I had like three good positive experiences, so that was really fun. But but like they wanted me to shave off all my like half my locks and then dye the other side rainbow. I mean, look at trying to have me look crazy, rainbow colors. And I was going to lead like a gay pride parade in San Francisco. And I said, hey, that's cool, but that's not me. So I declined. I said, I can't do this. But like I was going through these different tests and, I could go on forever, but this is the most powerful thing that I want to share. Or last two things. I astro traveled to my home. I was in coma. I died 3 times. and I was in coma for 40 days. So these numbers are, very spiritual
40
and biblical, right?
days. Mm-hmm.
Very, right? And so, but I died 3 times. After the first time, and then I came back, I realized we don't die. Life is eternal. Our soul is eternal. And I was on different dimensions. And when I came back, I had the choice to, I was coming to my home, but it was weird. It was like I could see my 12-year-old 5 years in the future, and I didn't want to for some reason. I think I know why now, right? He's giving me some trouble, but that's okay. I still love him. But, I didn't want to see him. But so then I went to my sofa in my home in the living room. And when I was there, I saw my wife's boyfriend, but I saw first my wife talking to like a business associate who's also a friend, and she was like wrapping up like a business and getting ready to start another one. She makes organic and vegan body skincare, like really, pure, amazing stuff, right? And so I saw them talking, but then I saw one of my twins. He's a little spiritual guy, and these little Neptune Pisces babies, right? 12 and under, and he'll be 11, my little Leo Scorpio moon. But he saw me, came over and gave me a hug on the sofa. Now, mind you, I was like on the sofa, like I was like totally like, like I couldn't walk. I was just like laying there, like it was like jacked up, like how I was in a hospital bed. And he comes, gives me a hug. He's in 4K technology, like super clear, all that. My wife and the friend and business partner, they were in 90s VHS. Big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You remember Blockbuster Video? So they were like, and it was so weird. Like, and I remember like looking, it was so distinct. But then she leaves, and then I see my wife and the boyfriend in the kitchen, and she's being all sweet and cutesy with him. Oh my gosh. You talk about torture. I was like, I'm foaming. Oh God, I was so hot. So, okay, so this is wild. So I didn't know this, right? But when I tell you that, they were starting to strip the medicine away, and they're telling my wife, just so you know, Mrs. Taylor, we're stripping a lot of stuff away. You're going to start to see his eyes flicker. He may twitch, and he may start to like make noises or wake up. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. They did that. Nothing was going on. So they were like, this is a little strange. Let's do a CAT scan of the brain. They did the CAT scan. Everything was fine. This is like, maybe getting towards like early October. They wait a couple more days. They're like, we're going to take all the medicine off, all the sedation. He's going to wake up. Nothing. Just out cold. Then they order an MRI of the brain. Everything was fine. And I told them, I said, I was down there doing work. I'm dealing with spiritual warfare. Like, I don't got time to just be waking up when you want me to. Like, I was handling business, right? And so they transferred me October 10th. My wife's not there. And I distinctly remember, now, mind you, I officially wake up on the 16th. I don't know the dates. I'm out. But I'm assuming that it was like, because I woke up twice. Like, let's say it must have been the 13th. I awaken, but it's at night. The hospital during COVID at night, adios mio, no bueno. It was terrible. Mind you, my locks are shorter, but I'm sweating. I wake up, I'm so weak, and I'm trying to lift up my hand to wipe my brow. They thought I was trying to pull out I wasn't on the vent anymore, but it's like a tube and I forget all the terminology. It's so much. But I was on the breathing tube. I wasn't trying to pull it out. I'm trying to wipe the sweat, but they wouldn't turn on the light and look at me, and I couldn't communicate. I couldn't see. It was dark. You're just seeing this one light off in the room, and I'm in this dark room, and it's very ominous, and I'm alone in the room. The nurse's aide or whatever, who's a man, he comes over, and he puts restraints on me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God, you guys. I mean, it was the worst. I'm almost like ready to cry, but I'm so angry, and I'm trying to like, and he's like, Mr. Taylor, you got to calm down. You're gonna, you can't pull out your vent. I'm like, mother effer, like I'm not trying to pull out my vent. I'm trying to get you to wipe the sweat off my head, and so all I could do was what? Go back to coma land. I just shut down. I was so angry, and I was just like, oh my God, these people aren't gonna help me. I just went back to sleep, and I guess it felt like 2 days later, I woke up again at night. I'm assuming this was October 15th because they put restraints on me again. The next time I wake up, it's in the morning, and I awaken for good. So I know that that was the 15th because it was October 16th. And this angel of a nurse walks in the room, and she sees me, and she's like, "Hi." She's like, "Oh my God, who did this to you? Who put this on you? Let me take it off." And I'm like, "Oh yes, thank you, God."
Aw.
And I and I'm just like, "Oh my
Baby.
God." And so she's like wiping me and cleaning, and I was just like, "Oh God, thank you, it's over," because you can imagine, I was scared to death.
Yeah.
I didn't know because it's at night. I didn't know if my wife knew where I was. I just thought like, is this my forever? Is this my reality? Is this my existence? So I finally awaken and I go through all this stuff and I got the JPEG and the feeding tube and I mean, but what's honestly, you guys, I started to heal super fast.
Hmm.
And one of the nurses, a male nurse, sweetheart of a guy, he told my wife, he said, maybe first or second night I was there, he said, I remember when first night I worked with your husband, I came in the room and there was this beautiful, like golden light and spirit and energy over his bed. And she was like, that's his mother. She just passed away on September 21st. Now, my wife didn't tell me until I don't remember the date, but she waited for me to get strong enough. She comes into the hospital room, let's say it's the 22nd or so. I just knew my mom was alive. I even had talked on FaceTime with my sister, and I'm seeing with my eyes, I was just, 40 days. I was like in a loop. I don't know where I was, but I'm thinking I see my mom and I'm like, "Hey, Ma," and but everybody's like playing along with me
Mm,
because they wanted me to get stronger.
right.
And my mom and I were so tight. And you could imagine taking care of her over 20 years, surviving breast and brain cancer, and so much more. My mother was shot in the head by my uncle when I was 7, left for dead,
Oh my.
point blank range, and
Hmm.
survived that. Drove in her Mercedes Benz like multiple blocks. And like, my mom was like, she was that chick. Like she was a Taurus, Pisces rising, Pisces moon. My mom was no joke.
Wow.
And my wife comes in with the chaplain. And I'm sitting there. And meanwhile, I'm still paranoid,
Right.
right? Because when I asked her who came to the house, she
Mhm.
confirmed that the woman was there. So I knew that I had astral traveled to the house. And she's like, "How did you know that?" And I said, "I was at the house." And she's like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "Well, our son," and she was like, "He said he saw you and that you would be coming home." And I said, "Yeah, I saw him too." And he hugged me. And she was blown away. She was like, "Wait a minute. How did you know she was there?" I said, "I was at the house, babe." Right.
Wow.
So then that happened. But then I'm saying to her like all this stuff, and I'm thinking she had cheated on me. So I wasn't trusting her when I first woke up. You could imagine. And told her, I said, and I asked her, I said, were you dating someone? Are you cheating on me? And she's like, "No, what are you talking about? I'm here at the hospital and the kids, and and meanwhile, she's like, my wife helped save my life. They're giving me so the tube feed in the hospital, in case the audience, goes through anything. The basic one they give you is like A plus or Jevity. It's crap.
Mhm.
My blood sugar was off the charts, blood pressure. I've never had issues with my health. I've had a bunch of surgeries, but it was just all ligament stuff, right? I've never had any like, blood pressure, blood sugar, none of that, right? My wife had them switch me to what the tube feed we had my mom on because she couldn't eat anymore. She was nonverbal. She was on Kate Farms. This gentleman had made it for his daughter, right? And it's all organic rice and fruits and veggies. Do you know, once they switched me on that, within 2 days, my blood sugar level normalized. I was on the verge of being a diabetic because of these people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the nurse almost got fired, and my wife was providing it. It wasn't even the hospital's food. My wife was bringing in, because we had extra Kate Farms for my mom, she
Mm.
brought it in.
Hmm.
Needless to say, she comes in with the chaplain, and I'm like, "Oh my God, she's going to ask for a divorce." I'm like, "Oh, I can't take this." I'm almost ready to cry. And then she starts to tell me with the chaplain there, and the chaplain's like, "Hello, Mr. Taylor." And he's like, "Your wife has some very important news she wants to share with you." And I'm like, "Damn, my dream, my coma was real." I'm like, "She's going to leave me."
Mm.
She said, "Babe, on September 21st, while you were in coma, your mom passed away.
Mm.
And you know, you guys, like, I understand now that we had to be separated for her to go and for
Mhm.
me to be okay with it, you know? I
Mhm.
get that now. Even though I told my mom 2017, 2018, I said, Ma, you know, I was like, me and my wife, I was like, we're fine. If you want to go or if you need to go, you can go. You know, I could, but she was holding on because she was in a wheelchair, nonverbal dementia, but my mom was having a ball every day. We'd make her laugh. She would go to the senior center and just watching her grandbabies grow and they loved her and she loved on them. It was beautiful. She taught them so much compassion and empathy and grace and strength from the wheelchair. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
and when I got that message, it was literally like God Himself or the mighty Thor like punched me in my heart, you know, and that was it. I mean, I went on such a healing journey. I didn't get out of the hospital. You know, after I got out of there, then I went to rehab for 14 days. It was like totally, you know, Rocky theme. I get there and I said, listen, I got a business, I got a wife and kids. I'm a New Yorker. I said, I'm a New Yorker and I'm a Virgo. I said, whatever you ask of me, I'll do that and then some. I just need you to make sure I don't hurt myself. I was like, because I'm here to get healed and get home and get good. And they're like, okay, Mr. Taylor. Wake up in the morning, have breakfast. I have a PT and an OT. Come home to the back to the room, have lunch, go back out, another PT OT, and then come back to the room, turn on TV, and then like fall asleep, eat dinner. I mean, it was the hardest 2 weeks of my life, but I was ready for it. And I just played that Rocky theme music in my head. And
Yes.
I, you know me, I had everybody down there cracking. I'm doing like astrology readings. I'm doing freestyle. Oh, this will crack you guys up. Do you know in the hospital, couple things. Number one, all the nurses were tripping. They're like, Mr. Taylor, you have the softest and nicest feet we've ever seen. And I said, thank you. I was like, I take good care of my feet. I said, I got some big Barney Rubble flat feet and no arches because of my dad. I said, but yeah, I lotion them every day and I rub on them. So they were like, oh my God, your feet are so nice. I was like, thank you. But so that was hilarious. But then, do you know, I mean, it was early. I wanted to try to rhyme for one of the nurses. That male nurse I was telling you, you know, he's a brother, he was real cool.
Mhm.
And I couldn't remember. I started, right? And I couldn't remember one of my lyrics. Like I couldn't remember my rhyme. And I just started crying. And he's like, no, no, Mr. Taylor, you just woke up a couple days ago. Like, you're gonna get it back. Be patient. You're gonna be okay. You know, and honestly, my wife didn't know, the doctors didn't know, like if I would even recognize my family, if I would, you know, have permanent brain. I mean, 40 days, anything could happen, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they didn't know. And then, don't you know, a few days later, it comes back. I see him in the hallway. I'm like, yo, Jeremy. And I'm in the bed. I'm spitting bars. I'm freestyle. I'm spitting rhymes. I'm like, I'm back. And
Happy
then
New Year.
I'm giving nurses astrology readings.
That's
This
Um,
one, she's like, I'm a Gemini. I was like, what? And she's like, oh, my boyfriend. What sign is he? She's like, oh, he's that. I was like, yep. I said, listen. And then she tell me what time she's going. I was like, oh yeah, okay. So listen, I know you got issues with your mom. Da 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 da. You know that. She's like, oh yeah. And I said, the boyfriend, he's like da 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 da. And she's like, yep. And I'm like, you're kind of like. And she's like, yep. She's like, yeah. And then each one would come into the room. So I'm this, you know. And so I'm doing rhymes, astrology readings in the hospital. It was like my room was a stone groove. You know that.
nice. The room was lit.
It was just you guys. I don't know. I thank God every day for breath, for life,
Mm.
my wife, my kids. It took me 72 days to touch and hug my boys when I got transferred to the rehab facility. The boys were scheduled to come to the second hospital, but the day they were going to come, that night I got transferred, so we just waited. And when I got to the second facility, I was transferred at night to the third facility, right? And that day they scheduled and allowed the boys to come with my wife, and I got to sit outside. But it was the first time, 72 days to hug them, 72 days to feel the sun on my body. And I just was like, thank you, God. And I could feel my oldest son when I hugged him. No lie, I literally felt the fear jump out of his body. And he just melted in my arms and the crying. And it was just, you know, they saw me on FaceTime, and he even said, Dad, it was so hard talking to you because you would always ask how grandma's doing. And he said, and I would have to pretend, and I would say, oh, grandma's okay. She's napping, and it was just hard. And even my wife, this will bug you out. So I guess someone had texted her on my phone. I didn't keep my phone. She had it. And then even once I awakened, I just knew intuitively I needed to heal. I didn't want people calling me in the hospital. So when she would come, I'd be on the phone when she was there. But at night, I would let her take it. And to be honest, I didn't trust the doctors and nurses there. They were they were bloodletting. They snuck medicine to me. They were giving me antidepressants. I caught them. I said one night, I said, "What is this pill?" And they're like, "Oh, this is just your antidepressant." I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. That's what the melatonin is for, to sleep." Because then she's, "Oh, it's just to help you sleep, Mr. Taylor." I said, "That's what the melatonin is for. I'm not depressed." I said, "I don't want this pill."
Good for you.
Right? And then, see, people don't know, when you have one of your senses weakened or damaged, my other senses are like a superhero. I can hear an ant pee. I can, you know what I mean? Like I can smell
Damn.
like anything. Like I'm like, my wife's like, "Oh my God, your senses are ridiculous," right? But it's because I'm visually impaired. So I heard the nurse out in the hallway like a night or two later reading off my pill list, and they snuck me that pill. 6 o'clock in the morning, the doctor comes in every morning. Eastern European, "Mr. Teller, how you doing today?" I'm like, "Not too good. I told you not to give me that medicine anymore." And the nurses gave it to me the other night. I
Mm.
said, "Do not do that again." I was hot. And then they were taking my blood, you guys, 3 o'clock in the morning every night. And then I would go to bed, I'd fall back asleep, and then 3:25, 3:30, they come back in and do my vitals. I said, "Wait a minute, this has got to stop. You need to come in together." And I was like, "And why are you taking my blood?" It was 13 days in a row. I think day 8 or 9. Like, why are you taking my blood so much?
That's
And they
great.
said, "Oh, your potassium's off."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, what should it be?" They
Mm.
were like 4.8. I said, "What is it?" They were like, it's between 4.3 and 4.4. I said, "Well, give me some more bananas and orange fizzy crap and stop taking my blood. It's
Mm.
not that bad. You don't need to take my blood." 13. And then when I canceled it, the doctor comes in, "Mr. Teller, we don't advise you to, but you have, medical control." And I said, "Yeah, I don't want you taking my blood anymore."
Good for you. Yeah. Gotta be your own advocate.
Right.
I was going through it, y'all.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's my story.
That's
I mean, it was,
So much for sharing that.
it
What an
was,
experience.
to say the least. And first, sorry, that you lost your mom and you had to hear it in that manner. That could not have been easy at all.
thank you. It was, yeah.
That's,
And, I knew. I even had an astrology reading, and I intuitively knew her time was coming soon.
mm-hmm.
And little astrology insights, right? But I thought she was going to pass. So that was September, October. I thought she was going to pass the following spring, like between March and May, looking at the alignments.
Mhm.
She passed while Saturn was in Aquarius. That was
Mm-hmm.
in my fourth house of home and mother.
Oh, wow.
Saturn is not, is really more the marker and transit in astrology, the fourth house. You can see the end of the mother's life. And so Saturn was in my fourth house in Aquarius when she passed,
Wow.
right? On my mom's chart, the Pisces rising, and in your own chart, you can see in transit the passing of your father in eighth house, but your own self in the 12th house.
What?
Saturn in Aquarius was in my mother's 12th house when she passed. And
Mm.
that's hospitals, isolation. She died in the hospital.
Mm.
But she didn't die from COVID. She died from pneumonia. And they never gave, I don't want to really get into it, but they never gave her antibiotics. That's all she needed. You and I could die tomorrow. I mean, we're fine. But anyone could die from pneumonia if you don't treat it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They didn't give her antibiotics.
Wow.
And, unfortunately, my wife was not in control of that. We didn't have the medical power of attorney. So once I was out, I called my sister in New York and she took over, and the rest was history.
Mm.
And so between her and the doctors, they didn't try to keep her alive and fight for her. They wound up giving her morphine.
Oh, my
That shuts down your organs. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, come on, what are we doing here? Like, so
Yeah, that really does. I had a bad reaction to morphine once in the hospital.
Wow.
Bad reaction to a lot of medical stuff.
Yeah, and they just
Steroids,
pump it in, huh?
they don't care.
But
And
yeah, so sorry to hear about that. That's not easy, especially
No.
when you were already, dealing with your own stuff.
Yeah, but you know what I've learned and how I've grown since then,
Mhm.
that's what's so inspiring. Um, I was willing and ready to speak my truth on the second year anniversary. So this past September, and coming up will be the third year. And it's like a full circle moment because once I did, somebody shared that video either from my YouTube or my IG and shared it to Jeff Mara. And I was on the Jeff Mara podcast. I didn't know who that was. Somebody reached out to me and said they heard about my NDE story and like to interview me. I was like,
mhm,
okay. I go on there and I'm realizing, oh my God, this guy's got like, he has on NDEs, people who are psychics, UFO, like all types of, spiritual stuff. But like
Mhm.
it's a huge podcast.
yep.
And even Emily, I guess her and her mom watched it. And
Yep,
I was
we
like, oh my
watched
God, I had
it.
no
Yep.
idea, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Big.
I do that. And since then, I have been on this whirlwind journey of speaking and sharing my truth. And this may have been my 14th or 15th podcast sharing. And it's been very healing. But now I'm understanding a lot of my gifts.
Mhm.
My intuition has increased. This is really wild because I told you about my eye disease. It's only supposed to get worse over time. My grandfather went completely blind, and I got it through my mother, and my mother's father was blind. But my right eye, which is my worst eye, I went to the eye doctor. My vision improved. That's not supposed to happen. But
Amazing.
that happened through a coma. My vision improved in my right eye. And that wasn't anything tremendous, but any improvement is like a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
No doctor could explain it. I'll
Right.
tell you that, right? And I could hear the binary code. I could hear in the internet like 0011. Like I could hear the EMF, like all of like when planes and helicopters fly like, around the neighborhood or over the house, it sounds like they're like on my roof.
Wow.
Now I already had good hearing, but now it's like supersonic. It's like crazy. And so like all these different things. And then, so I have Uranus and Libra in the 12th house in my natal chart. I dreamt about my wife before I met her. When I was in relationships, I could see my girlfriends when they weren't with me. I dreamt about 9/11 2 years before it happened.
Wow.
But I used to dream all the time before this happened about my clients' birth charts at night when I was sleeping. But now I get these downloads and hits during a chart reading or before where I'm actually seeing an astrological placement of yours in action. So let's say if it was like Moon and Gemini in the fifth house, I'm seeing you play out that role like a vignette or a movie.
Wow.
And I just get these like hits. And then I'm telling, sharing, like, so like my spiritual gifts, my intuition, my audio, like all this, it's all been upgraded. And I don't know, I just give it all to God, you guys. It's so humbling, but I know, right, that I'm here for a purpose. I
Absolutely.
know
Great to hear.
I am here to help the collective in this awakening and help
Mm-hmm.
us, transition into the 5D and age of Aquarius, and just for everyone to really have self-love and to know we are all gifted.
Yeah.
This lady here, Emily, man, her chart, she's amazing.
Oh my.
She is so talented and gifted, and I can't wait to see your chart, Mo Girls. Like I know, you know what I mean. But like that's the magic in it,
Mhm.
because the natal birth chart is the map of your life.
Mhm.
It's the remembrance of your soul. It's what you chose your parents. No victimhood in astrology. God doesn't just control planet Earth, right? Earthlings, human beings, we can be pretty arrogant. Oh, God
Mhm.
only controls Earth? No, he controls Sun, Venus, Mercury, Saturn, right? Don't limit God.
Right.
And astrology and these things, crystals, they're not a sin.
Mm-hmm.
How do people think that a crystal is okay in an iPhone or a laptop or smart computer or a Tesla or anything? Exactly, right? But
I
so it's
got
not good for us to hold, for
mine.
us to put in our water in our bathtub under our pillow. I mean, come on, we got to grow up. We got to stop this ignorance, right?
Yeah,
Me too.
everything they
All
think
God
that.
makes it.
everything is
God makes
evil.
it all.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, look in ancient, what is it? Ancient Israel. They used to have the breastplate, and the breastplate was every birth chart, every birthstone. There were
Oh
12
yeah, an
of
ancient
them.
Kemet. Yep.
And I'm
Mm.
like, and even in Israel, I'm like,
Yeah,
"So
yeah.
you guys have been using this forever, and now it's evil? Like, what?"
Well, it's in the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mazel Tov is literally "May the stars be with you."
Mm.
The
Wow.
Jewish calendar and the Muslim calendar, they use the lunar calendar.
Yes, they
When
do.
they have, Ramadan, when they have, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Man,
just,
you tell them you speak
so,
my language. Look, I got this right
yeah,
here. It's
man.
called Creation Cries Out with the Mazarot right there, the whole astrology birth chart, everything. The
Wow.
book of Revelation talks about all of it too. I'm pushing that. That's where I'm headed with it too. Like just kind of cracking the code with that.
Amen.
I mean, yeah.
That's beautiful.
We had some
I
questions.
wanted to ask, yeah, we wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I wanted to know, if when I'm assuming you did your own birth chart at some point, right?
Yep.
Did you see anything or not so much the like COVID per se or anything that might have indicated that a shift was going to be happening in your life?
That's such a great question. What was interesting, not so much in the natal chart. I have since afterwards, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been interviewed for an NDE book and may even be in a documentary connecting it to astrology.
Mm-hmm.
So in transit, you could see I had all these like perfect storm where you could see the coma experience. I had my Chiron return, the wounded healer, the energy antenna. I had there was something going on in Gemini in my eighth house, but the natal sun was hitting my south node, and the south node like kind of cuts, separates, and divides. And I had I don't know if it was the moon or Mercury in conjunct my Uranus, which is sudden events in the 12th house in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
opposing and making a T square to my Cap moon in the third house and the Aries Chiron in the sixth house of health and daily routine and sickness and illnesses. So there were all these alignments, but just when I looked at my chart, it wasn't a natal chart. There's a chart called secondary progression, and it's like the book of Genesis, where one day equals 1 year. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say if you were born year 2000 and we were looking at 2024, you would move the date of your birth, let's say from September 21st, you would move it 24 years forward to September 25th. So
Mm-hmm.
that's secondary progression. So it's how the planets progress
Mm-hmm.
from the date of your birth.
Mm-hmm.
In that, I had all these alignments in Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
So that Scorpio is a Scorpio Sun Moon Rising energy, and I am Scorpio Rising. But there's a lot of connections to breaking generational curses. And Scorpio risings, it's a very powerful ascendant. It's ruled by Mars, traditional planet, modern planet, Pluto. But it goes through death and rebirths and transformations, which has been my life story. My father was
Mm-hmm.
murdered when I was 6. I told you about my mom at 7. Then at 9 years old, they told me I had this eye disease. I'd be blind by 21. I mean, can you imagine little Eric? Like, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I still can see pretty darn good. I get around by myself. You know what I mean? So like, for them to go through all these things, like Scorpio rising, you go through a lot, but the that's the curse part, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going through these karmic lessons. The gift and the blessing, Sagittarius in the second house of money. When you have Sagittarius there, I have no planets there, but it's ruled by Jupiter. And it's like Scorpio risings will never go broke and homeless. They've got that Jupiter, that Sagittarius in the second house, that even if you're just going to bed with ramen noodles or a slice of pizza and a Snapple, like I did many times in college and, young single adult when I was, acting, doing Law and Order, New York Undercover, Oz, Sopranos, and I was making very little money, I still could pay my bills and money would come in on time. So, that's the gift. So yeah, I say in a way, I sense something looking at my secondary progression chart because there's literally like Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, all in Scorpio. Like whoa, it
Mhm.
was intense, right? I was like, that's crazy. And but in the transit chart, I've now learned all these different alignments that just really described all that I went through.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to know because you did mention that you can get deep, so that was a question that I had.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah. You can see so much. Like I tell people, if you went to a psychic, an astrologer, anybody, no one, you run away from them if they tell you they can predict your death. They're crazy. Only God knows when we're dying.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, in transit, yeah, Saturn in my fourth house, that was an indicator about my mom. Saturn was in her 12th house, that was an indicator for my mom. You can see that. I even went back and looked at the chart when my father was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 4 or 5 different alignments
Wow.
speaking to death. And now this will freak you out. This is what hooked me to astrology. So I was studying and doing all this stuff, and and I just recently had her on my podcast. She's a Virgo and Scorpio rising with me, and she does medical astrology. Heather Elin, so she was on my show, and when I took this course with her, it was like 10, 11 students, very intimate, small, all over the world, and we talked, and she was going to share my chart as an example to teach a lesson,
Mm-hmm.
and in my chart, not in my mother's or my sister's, so it's really interesting, but in my chart you could literally see the story of my father's murder in my 11th house in Virgo, the planetary alignments. It
Mm-hmm.
tells the story of my father's murder. And in my 8th house, remember I was saying you could see the end of your father's life in an 8th house? It tells the story too in the 8th house with my Gemini. Because my father was murdered in his local community, which is Mercury, Gemini energy, 3rd house, out in it, like outside of his car with a
Mm-hmm.
weapon. Mars is the weapon, the gun, the adversary, and Mars, Pluto, and all that, and Lilith, it was, the death, and the sun is myself and the father. So those alignments and the South Node kind of separate you from the father. Like it was all, and so when she did that and explained it in class,
Wow.
not only for me but the whole class, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was like, and I was like, it's okay, guys, it's my life. I lived it, like I'm cool with it. But it blew my mind that she could see that and taught it to us and shared that,
Mm-hmm.
and that it wasn't in my sister or mother's, just mine. And I was like, oh yeah, astrology is the real deal. Because before that, I just really knew only like sun sign astrology. Now I had
Yeah.
memorized that back and forth,
Yeah.
especially in college for the ladies. Like I knew like all the erogenous zones, and I knew like, okay, Libra, they like the lower back massage. Cancer, the stomach. Taurus, you rub their neck. Like Pisces, rub their feet. Like, oh, I was a smooth criminal. Do, 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 like so. But then once I really, it took me forever to understand and learn, or even know that you got a moon, you got a Mercury, a Venus. You know what I mean? So once I dove in, it was so natural for me, and I realized I've been doing this for many lives.
Wow.
That's
So
all.
it was powerful.
You
That's
know,
right.
that same year, I'm wondering if there was anything going on with Virgos because that same year, my goddaughter, we almost lost her in a storm in
Mm.
September too. It was around the date we had Ida, one of those storms.
Oh, Ida was happening when I first got in the hospital. It was like August,
Mhm.
because I went in August 29th. I think Ida was like August
Around
30th
there.
or
Yeah.
September 1st. Yeah, yeah, I
And
remember
her
that. I was,
birthday September 14th. So I was like, what are the odds of this? And it was almost like a Scorpio type of thing too, death and rebirth. And she
wow.
felt it too. She was gonna turn 21. And she says to me, Titi Emily, I just feel like this was supposed to happen. And she lost her car. She had to hold on for dear life. We were frantic trying to get to her. It was really scary. And we thought we were gonna lose her that day. So I'm just curious. Like, I wonder if there was something going on with Virgos. Oh, and my ex was also in the hospital with COVID around that same time. And he's a Virgo too.
Hmm.
Wow. Well, I think it was those alignments. I'd have to see their individual charts, but it was at the time the nodes were in the Gemini Sag axis. So those are squares to Virgo. So that's a challenge
Wow.
to your what's your sun sign? Your vitality, your purpose, your identity, right? Self. So yeah, that the nodes are, very karmic north node, like mission, purpose, destiny. It's the dragon's head. It's like consuming energy. And then the south node cuts, separates, and divides like Mars. And it's like past life karmas, but it's very spiritual. So the fact that those nodes were there squaring the natal sun, that probably was part of the story for them as well as me.
Wow. This is crazy. I'm like, I know
Because
Virgo.
but that I
Yeah,
just
it's
realized, yeah, because
a-
that North Node was in Gemini in my eighth house, and guess what the eighth house is, right? The 12th house is the hospitals, but the eighth house is emergencies and sudden events.
Wow.
this was 2021.
2021, yes, ma'am.
Man, I broke a gem. A Virgo's heart then.
Oh, what the see? I'm telling you.
Something something was happening to Virgos that year for real.
It was a Virgo year. I'm
The
serious.
Virgo, yeah.
Yeah, that was around August, September. Yeah.
Oh wow,
That's
see, so there was something going
wild.
on, yeah.
Wow.
And then when you have the solar return, it's a reset, it's usually a positive thing, but the way everything was aligned, it was something.
Wow.
But, so what's really deep on the third year anniversary, I'm going to be presenting at the Near Death Experience Conference, IAMS, the organization. And I'm going to be on a panel on August 30th in Phoenix.
Oh, wow.
And I'll be presenting my near death experience story. And my group is me and two other women. But we're kind of doing the shorter version of the story. It's only an hour.
Mm,
But then we're gonna really focus on, well, what's next? Part
mm,
of really the up leveling, the healing,
right.
coming
Mhm.
out of the head and more into the heart.
Mhm.
And for
Mhm.
me, yeah, I've always been hashtag deep water faith. I became a born again Christian in 1999. Went to California. My half sister was like a Christian thug. She's the type of girl like, we in Bible study one night and she's like, "Oh, so if you die tonight, is your soul going to heaven or hell?" Like she was just like straight up Christian thug, right? My sister was no joke. And I'm like, I don't know.
Oh
She's like,
no.
"Oh, well, you better know." Her name was London. Oh, she was so sweet. I've lost a lot of Tauruses in my life. My good friend from college, my half sister, and my mom.
Mm.
Three, like, it's really interesting because my Saturn's in Taurus, so there's some karma there with the Taurus energy in me. But I love Tauruses a lot, and but yeah, but so we are here all for a great purpose. We all have beautiful spiritual gifts.
Mhm.
God
Yes.
is with all of us, God consciousness is within us. And at this time, we have to choose the positive timeline. No fear, faith over fear. Vibrate from your heart chakra, true self love. And the four highest frequencies are joy, love, gratitude, and number one, scientifically been studied, authenticity. You can only be Mo Curls. You can only be Emily. I can only be Eric.
Mhm.
Right? I can only be Biggie Astrology. Even changing of the name. When Emily first met me, I was tailored to coaching. And that was my business name. My last name's Taylor. So it was just, but then I was like, well, I still do relationship coaching, but I was like, everything is leaning towards the astrology. And I was
Mhm.
like, it's time to transition, for me to like just step into it. And my nickname, right, is obviously my name is Eric, but Big E. I was in the summers. I would go up to Cape Cod to Martha's Vineyard, Oak Bluffs, and I played basketball. I was in a basketball league, and when I was 7 years old, I was the smallest little kid in the league. The whole year, I made one basket. I could barely reach the hoop, and I had a big mouth and these big glasses. And the coach would call me Big E, and he gave me the nickname after Elvin Hayes, but it was a joke because I was so little. But I had this big energy and big mouth, and everybody just loved me. I was a cute little kid, and so he named me Big E, and that stuck with me my whole life.
Wow.
I even got it, I got a tattoo that says Big E, right? So some people up there only know me as Big E. They don't even know my real name's Eric. Some people are like, yo, Big E, Big E. Like that's who people know me. So I was just like, well, let me just be authentically who I am. I'm Big E Astrology.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you see how things just come full circle and just work. And I was like, thank you, God.
Yep, meant to be.
Everything at its time, for sure.
Well, that was when we started this podcast. The initial thing was to change our darkest times into, from that reality into what's next. How do we heal? How do we move forward in a positive way, become more optimistic? Because we know there's a lot of us. I think everybody, we've got our stories, childhood, we've lost people, narcissistic parents or partners, abusive people. We all have our stories and people can share it. But what are we doing next? Like you said, what are we going to do to help each other heal? And that's what we're looking to do right now. I think all of us are trying, well, not all of us, but a lot of us are trying to, get rid of the old and move into the new. And that's what we're hoping to do here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a beautiful intention. And, that's what, when Emily invited me and I saw, some of your episodes, it just lit me up. And you're right, you guys, it's that time, right, for us to, so the human design prophecy, if you audience doesn't know, human design, it's like an reads your aura, your energy field, and it's a body human graph, right? And it's a mixture of the I Ching, quantum physics, and astrology. And there's like profile lines. Like for me, I'm a 1-3 generators, but there's projectors, reflectors, manifestors, manifesting generators, and generators. And it's a beautiful system. And the human design prophecy is that the collective is going to leave the solar plexus, and in 2027, we're all going to vibrate from our heart chakra.
Wow.
And that's really beautiful when I think about the planetary alignments that are going on. Neptune and Saturn going to Aries 2026, Uranus and Gemini in 2026, Pluto Aquarius, for the next 20 years, starting November 19th officially. And, just this great shift, this great awakening. We are in the age of Aquarius. And, when you think about 2027, it's so powerful. And, to really give you chills, this is no lie. In 1998, I wrote my first play.
Mhm.
I got it produced in 2005, and it's called The First Supper. It's a lighthearted spiritual sci-fi that takes place. I wrote it in '98. It takes place in 2027. 6 men and 6 women find themselves in a position where they have to start the world all over again, and they're literally trapped in a house in a black hailstorm, and they awaken. And through the play, they start to realize and remember how they got there and what happened. They don't know.
Mhm.
And the house was in Arizona.
Hmm.
And now I live in Arizona. I wrote this in 1998.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
wild.
That's some future. And I'm just like, I couldn't make that up. But things like that, honestly, even when I wrote my first album, Hip Hop Forever, right? My hip hop name is E Complete. My first album is Hip Hop Forever. My second album, True Speaker. What's deep, on my first album, I have a song called My Mission with me and 3 other MCs. And the concept was like, so, what's your mission when you come into planet Earth? Like, what are you here to do? And in the rhyme, I'm literally describing my astrological placements that I didn't even know about.
Wow.
All I knew at that time that I was a Virgo sun. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, can I share it with you?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So I was like, so what's my mission as I come to this planet? Move over Saturn because your rings can't stand it. I slammed it as my breath exhaled, and I'm coming through the oceans like Orca the whale. 9 months in jail from the womb to the tomb. I was born in September, but I was ready in June. Eager to patrol with my shining soul. I plan to be the glue to the globe and just reclaim the names for the brothers that been framed and shamed in this dirty and righteous game. Never lame or tame, stay dry in the rain, go against the grain, and I could heal your pain. Between TV, film, and hip hop, the whole world will know my name. ERERIC. Just need a wife and kids to continue my dynasty. The son of Kid Taylor, and that's a real legacy. I'm out.
Mm. What?
Wow. That was
You even got your whole family in there. You did it.
that's what's
Wow.
up.
You're talking
And
about future prophesying.
And
Yeah.
so wait, so what's crazy, right? Move over Saturn, your rings can't stand it. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn moon, ruled by Saturn. 9 months in jail from the womb to the tomb. I was born in September, but I was ready in June. In human design, they have this thing called the gene keys, and it's like creating, like your soul was formed 88 days completely before your birth.
Mhm.
Well, if you go back and do that, that makes me a Gemini sun in my unconscious chart. And that's in June, the birthday, the new birthday, 88 days. And I said I was born in September, but I was ready in June. That's
That's
crazy.
wild. How in the world did you know
Wait, there's
this?
one more. And then I said, coming through the oceans like orca the whale. Well, I'm a Pisces North Node, right? And orca the whale in the
Stop,
oceans, that's Pisces.
stop.
Isn't that crazy?
You can't make this stuff up.
You can't make,
Wow.
I'm telling you guys, God was really with me when I wrote my first album. And I will say, I've got one more in me. And I got the title.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yes, yes, yes.
Nice.
It's
Do
gonna
it,
come.
do it.
Probably 2025. I'm really busy right now, doing
Yeah.
this conference. I'm working on my first astrology book that should be coming out hopefully in a few months or, but I'm editing right now. It's gonna be really dope. And then I got in 2018, I got the title of the book and it came out of nowhere. And I
Mhm.
was like, this is weird because it's kind of like long and it's, obviously hip hop forever, true speaker, kind of like tight, concise, right? The name of the third album, and when I say it, you'll know, like, why I got it because of all that I just went through, right? The name of the third album is God Told Me to Tell You.
Wow.
That's deep. I like
And
that.
after what I went through in coma and what I experienced and
That's awesome.
understanding
I mean,
about the astral traveling and eternal life and the soul, I mean, you guys, I saw so much stuff
Wow.
and not one moment of darkness. But now I know what God told me to tell you. So that third album is going to be a banger.
That's
And it's
dope.
going to be, and I know one song is going to be titled Cheryl's Son after my mother and
Wow.
just talking about her and our connection and story. So, um, you know, I, I just, I have always been authentically me. I've never been a follower. I was always the kid, even in grade school. I didn't play, didn't no bullies on my watch. I would protect the kids, and no, I was like, even though I was tiny and skinny, I had a big mouth, and I would, people would back down. You know what I mean? Like I was like, yo, but I would protect kids, no bullying. Even special needs kids. I remember in high school, I'd be like, yo, this one kid, Tommy, he'd be sitting at the table alone. I'm like, yo, what's up, Tommy? How you doing? How was your weekend? He's like, hey, Eric. Like I was just, and then I taught disabled kids, like. I've always just had a heart for humanity. I'm not saying I'm far from perfect. We're all a work in progress.
Absolutely.
yeah.
I try to get better every day. I try to learn something new every day.
Mhm.
But I've always, I pride myself, my calling card, and to show you so much so, when I was in coma, my friends, they rallied. They created a Facebook page for me. My
No.
wife didn't have to cook one meal.
Wow.
Even after rehab, when I came home, she still had gift cards for food.
Wow.
And I came home the Sunday before Thanksgiving, November, I think it was November 20th, 2021. I mean, they sent her so much stuff, and I was so, just to this day, such gratitude, the love, you know what I mean? But I told my boys, I said, you know what? That's because your father, I've never wronged intentionally another human in my life.
Mhm.
I never disrespected any women. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I never abused, did anything inappropriately sexual. I never, you know what I mean? I never disrespected another human in my life. And it showed in my time of need because people just poured into my family. And
That's
even
karma.
my people on YouTube. Like I had people when I came home, I had stuff in my like Cash App and my PayPal. Like it was just like, well, I don't maybe I didn't even have Cash App back then, but and my PayPal, but it was just like it blew me away. The comments, the love,
Wow.
and I had a video that I put up. My wife had recorded a video in the hospital when I first got my trach and I could talk. And I
Mhm.
was like, thank you, everyone. It was, from the hospital bed, but like, oh my God, the love. Like, I just, I believe with all this hatred and division, a lot of it is orchestrated. When
Mm.
you really amongst the people and you touch and talk to the people, I really believe in inherent goodness. Yes, there's a lot of darkness on this plane and in this earth and a lot of confusion.
Yep.
especially with the youth. But there's a lot of love and a lot of goodness too.
Yeah. I agree.
Good people still exist.
Amen.
They do. Sure do.
Just like you two angels.
And you as well.
Yep.
Thank you, my friend.
Definitely. You have any other questions, Mo?
Um, no, not as of right now.
So one last thing, how can people reach you?
That's
Tell people
Um,
how to contact you. I mean, I'm gonna put
well,
it in the link when I post everything, but just
yeah, no, thank you. So, it's real easy. My business name, BIG, big, the letter E, bigeastrology.com. My email is bigeastrology@gmail.com. My Twitter, also known as X, my TikTok, my IG is, and YouTube is all Biggie Astrology. Um, the one thing I haven't been able to figure out how to change it yet, I'm not super tech savvy. My Facebook group is still tailored to you coaching, but it has all the Biggie graphics on there. So if you go to it, you'll see it. And it's tailored the number 2 and the letter U, tailored to you coaching on Facebook. But everything is Biggie Astrology.
awesome.
And I have a myriad of services. I do business birth chart readings. I can help people who have already started a business or who want to start a business. I work with, synastry compatibility charts for relationships. I do readings for people who are just trying to find love, and I can see that in the birth chart, looking at different placements. I've even got like a hater chart. You can see where you deal with enemies and haters and
I need one of
jealous
those.
ones.
all the charts.
Yeah, no,
I
for
love
real.
it.
And I do, career. But I do a lot of like really deep work. My new program I'm really proud of is astrological life coaching, and it's a 7-week program. And the first week we just talk to get to know each other. I want to know what your goals are. What are your desires? What do you want to learn about yourself? How do you want to heal? How do you want to transform? Then the second week, I do your birth chart reading. And then the next 4 weeks, we do a deeper dive, 3 houses at a time. And I really teach you how to live and exist in the flow and energy of your natal birth chart. And I mean, we go deeper. We look at all the aspects. We look at behind the planets and stuff. You look at the degrees, there's things called lunar mansions. And so that gives you more detail, more complexity. I get into that. I have this whole kit where I'm sending people like these amazing things. Actually have it right here. I've got a workbook and a wooden pencil for you to journal. I've got candles to send to people, crystals. I do things to help you reprogram your subconscious mind, to heal your inner child, to really get to a place where you have true self love and forgiveness for people who have wronged you. The way that I do the astrology, and after those 4 weeks, looking at 3 houses at a time, then we have the summary week where we just sum it all up. We create a dream book. We really get in, and I sum up for you the roadmap for you to continue on your own, to just continue being the best version of yourself. So I'm really excited. I'm about to officially relaunch it, because before it was just like 4 or 5 weeks, and now it's 7 weeks. And so stay out on the lookout for that. You can see it on biggieastrology.com, and I'll have a funnel for that. And I'm starting a new community. I have monthly astrology meetings this Sunday, July 21st, coming up. I've got astrological coffee talk with Eric. It's 2 hours, $20. And it's great. I call it my 11th house crew because, when people are into astrology or spiritual stuff or have an awakening, sometimes you could feel very isolated and alone. So I wanted to
Mhm.
create a safe space where people can come and talk about astrology and not feel weird. Talk about spirituality, share your businesses, share whatever's on your heart, your pains, your traumas, and learn about astrology, this ancient wisdom. So this coffee talk, I'm teaching from the sun to Saturn, all their planets in the fall, right? The planetary fall. So Sun in Libra, Moon in Scorpio, Mercury Pisces, Venus Virgo, Mars Cancer, Jupiter Capricorn, and Saturn in Aries. People get fearful. Oh my God, that's the worst placement. No, no, no. It's just a challenging energy. But I'll be teaching you how to work with it, how to optimize it, how to finesse it, how to make sure you understand that energy, because it's not that bad. It's just different. It's just not easy, but it's you can work it to the best of your abilities. So, and that's what astrology is really about. It's really here to help you. You know what I mean? And so, Coffee Talk, it's 2 hours, $20. Just email me at biggieastrology@gmail.com. And, you can't book it on the website, but you email me and then you can pay PayPal, Cash App, or Zelle. And it's only $20. If you can't make it live, you can still receive the recording, the chart, the graphics, everything. But it's a lot of fun. As I like to say, it's a stone groove, baby.
That's
So, but
awesome.
that's it. Biggie Astrology. Hit me out. I don't bite. You can email me questions. But my heart is really, it's just to heal the collective and can continue to do God's work,
Yeah.
Yes,
because we got a lot of work to do. The
Yeah.
that's right.
enemy is dark. They talk about World War III. It
Mm-hmm.
already started years ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
spiritual warfare.
Yep.
We've been in World War III. It's spiritual warfare. So we've got a lot of good work to do, and we've got to choose the timeline of love and
Mm.
vibrate from our heart chakra as a collective.
Yep.
Right. Could
I
all make the world a better place for real if we really try.
That's it. It just takes, each one of us to do our part.
hmm share that little bit of our light with everybody, the creator's light that's within all of us. If we just know, activate it.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And everybody in the audience, I'm sure everybody's looking forward to catching up and checking you out, and keep us posted with everything else you got going on, the book, the album.
Thank
Such
you. I
exciting
Yes.
will.
stuff.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward
Yeah,
to
I'll have
hearing
to
that
come back
song.
on when the book finally comes out. I'm going deep. So it's about the basic foundations of astrology,
Mhm.
but there's a million of those books out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting a different twist on it. I don't like to share it publicly yet until it's ready, but it is really clever. It's cool, and it's uniquely me. So I just can't wait to share it.
Can't wait. Definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Yes, Eric. Good luck with everything. We look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me on your show. I love this platform, and I just, want to continue to share, you guys with everyone and with my audience. So thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Night.
Bye.